Many of us are waking up to the fact that the values of those in Washington, D.C. are not our values.
It is under siege by a Democrat president who refuses to do his constitutional duty to secure the border of the United States.
Then I think we take NASA, we take the military, we take the oil.
Here in Texas, we esteem those principles of Thomas Jefferson, that all political power is inherent in the people. Texans are sick and tired of being governed by 180,000 pages of federal laws, rules, and regulations.
And I've dedicated the last 15 years of my life to make sure that we don't have to do this anymore.
It is for all of these reasons and more that tonight I am officially announcing that I will be running as a Republican candidate to become the next Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Texas.
I want to ask you if you're familiar with Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution.
I don't memorize everything, so read it.
That's fine. I'm not asking you if you believe in independence right now or should we leave. What I'm asking you is whose decision is it? Is it we the people or is it the legislature?
You've asked me a question I've not been asked. You've asked me a question I've not researched. And so I will follow back. And
you have to research it?
Yeah,
I just read the Texas Constitution.
Ma'am, I understand. But there will be a legal opinion on that, and I don't know what that legal opinion is, and I would want to go to the Attorney General and find out what that really says and really means and what the intent is. Reading me something for the first time that I have not looked at, and you're asking me a question, and I'm happy to give you an answer and follow up and give you the answer.
Governor, what's the enforcement of this going to look like in terms of 25%, 50%? Who's going to do it, and are there any penalties attached?
I missed the last part of the question.
Are there any penalties attached to this? I mean, just mostly who's going to be doing the enforcing here?
Right. Well, so for all of these executive orders, before now and now, there's several levels of enforcement. For one, there's the enforcement of up to a $1,000 fine and 180 days in jail. But the more primary enforcement would be either the local level or the regulatory level. And so for a lot of these businesses, they have an authorization to conduct business in the state of Texas. And if they violate the law, which this is now the law, they're subject to losing their license to have an open business.
We have to do so in a safe way. Understand this. We are working on strategies that I will announce on Monday about the extent to which Texas can begin to open business, and we're doing so based upon the advice of the 4 medical doctors that we have working on this project, as well as the standards established by Dr. Fauci, Dr. Birx, and the CDC. They have set standards. Know this, and that is with regard to things like salons and gyms, they are still prohibited by the CDC, by the federal government, by the state government. And so those would be situations where people who open up those types of businesses, they're subject to having their license revoked and forever not being able to open their business again.
All right. Hey, good evening, everyone, for this special early and expanded edition of Coffee Talk. And I am here. I'm Daniel Miller. I'm the guy. I think this represents 52 weeks, right? At least. I was just talking to Kara about this a little bit earlier about we've literally been doing this thing for about a year now. And it's been fun. Which started out as a bit of late night banter in the TNM members Facebook group on random evenings, turned into every Wednesday night at 9:30, which grew into not just the members group, but every Facebook group that we have, and the TNM Facebook page, and my Facebook page, and Twitter, and Twitch, and our Roku streaming channel. I mean, it's been a big year. So I thought we're going to continue on the annual tradition. This is something that we have done pretty much every year, whether we had some kind of regular way to do it or not, where we would fire up a live stream. I can remember back when it was just audio only, but we'd fire up a live stream and do an end of the year recap and kind of a look ahead. And just so happens we get to do it on Coffee Talk. So makes me an immensely happy person. And of course, 2 hours, right? So we're doing 2 hours tonight. And, it was a big year. So why not close out a big year with an even bigger discussion where you can share your thoughts, your questions, and everything else. So let me go and get the housekeeping out of the way, right? As always, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified when we do go live or when we post new videos. We would really, really appreciate that. And that goes for whether you're on the TNM's Facebook page or my Facebook page. Be sure to do that. And of course, if you're on the TNM's Facebook page, Super Chat is live. And any contributions you make there in the Super Chat go straight to the TNM and the work that the organization does. And of course, if you're watching on my YouTube channel, then thank you very much. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Trying to grow that thing, and very happy for those of you who have done that. If you're watching on Facebook, do the Facebook things. Be sure to like the post. Be sure to share the post. Be sure to comment. Help us defeat the algorithm. Your participation is much appreciated, and definitely share. Let's pack this thing out. I know there's probably some people still at church right now, but when they get home, they will see it and get on board. And of course, if you're on Twitter, do all the Twittery type things that you can do. And that ding, I left the notifications on so we can get this. So, So all those. And if you're on Twitch, do the twitchy things. I don't know what you do over on Twitch. Although I will admit, I have watched some game streamers over there from time to time. It can be fun. All right. Well, look, now that we've got that out of the way, man, I've got a lot going on tonight, right? We're gonna basically take a stroll back down memory lane, start with where we were this time last year, walk through, and of course, as always, all of your comments and your chat and all that all aggregates over on, well, technically it's this. Well, if you're looking, it's this side of the screen for me. this side of the screen. And Kara is in there right now doing her producer kind of thing, taking your questions. As a matter of fact, when you hear the ding, you will know that she has forwarded me a question. So she's trying to keep me from having to spend all of that time scrolling, looking at questions and comments. I mean, can you remember? Can you remember when we were doing this? And like for the hour that we were together, I would spend 30 minutes scrolling, looking, trying to go through. You guys have been phenomenal. And let me just take this opportunity here at the tail end of the year to thank you. Because if it were not for you and your participation and your continued encouragement, there is a lot that would be very different. And first and foremost, late night coffee talk would still be relegated to me talking into the camera on this phone in a Facebook group. But your continued participation, your interest, your support is what has kept this thing rocking and rolling and expanding. And we actually, when I'm on the road, we plan around our Wednesday nights so that even if we have a Wednesday event, I have to burn it back to the hotel and visit with you guys. So that being said, yeah, we're going to go back through now tonight. I'm going to have some special guests. I've got Nate Smith, the executive director of the Texas Nationalist movement, because one of the things that many of you have asked about throughout this year have been specifically about the song that we normally play both at the beginning and at the end. And if you'll notice, I didn't play it this time. That's because, as promised, I have got Nate on here. We're going to banter about T&M, things of that nature. And he's going to play the song and maybe another one live for you. Him, his guitar, his microphone. Proof positive that we do not have to go over to Fiverr, unlike some people I will not mention, to get our theme songs and our music. We've got more musicians in the T&M than Carter's got liver pills. And, man, they are extremely talented. And that includes our executive director, man. That artistic talent flows from the top of the organization. Not from me. I don't do that. Not my thing. You don't want me to do that. I promise you. So, yeah, that being said, we're going to take some time tonight as we unpack over the next 2 hours, talk about some of the questions that you guys have sent in that have been maybe a little more personal, a little less serious, but we are going to tackle some serious ones as well. So, let's dive right off into that. So, if you saw the early promotion for this, one of the things that you saw was a mention of State Representative Kyle Biedermann going to participate with us tonight. He unfortunately cannot be here live, but he did submit a video, and I'm going to play it for you. But winding the clock back, understand that when we jumped into the first of 2021, Kyle Biedermann and what he did for supporters of Texas independence, and at a minimum, those who want to vote on the issue, was really the thing that helped shape and mold everything that happened this year, right? I mean, he opened the door to a sentiment that existed among the people of Texas, and gave them an opportunity. It gave Texit supporters a foothold, a chance to get this legislation through. Now, granted, the legislature swatted it down. They ignored the cries of the people. But we cannot downplay the role of Kyle Biedermann, because I will tell you, but for him having the courage to do the right thing at the very beginning of this year and file the legislation that would have given us a vote on the issue in November, I don't know that the courage existed in the legislature to do it. You know, we always talked about we needed all Texas supporters ever needed was one person to be the first one out of the foxhole, right? The first one out of the foxhole, and then the rest would follow. And sure enough, we saw it. We saw 6 courageous names total on House Bill 1359. State Representative James White, Brian Slayton, Steve Toth, Jeff Kaysen, Phil Stevenson. You know, we saw these guys come up and say, you know what, I agree. The people of Texas should, at a minimum, have a vote on the issue of Texas independence. So I thought it fitting that since Kyle helped us kick off 2021 to be one of the most successful years in the history, not just of the T&M, but of Texas independence, one of the largest growth years for us, and one of the years where we were able to advance the cause of Texas independence farther than it's ever been advanced, I thought it only fitting to kick off with his video message. So right here, straight from Kyle Biedermann, check this out.
Well, good evening, Daniel, Miller, and members of Texas National Movement and whoever else might be on this call or this Zoom meeting. I'm just grateful to be able to be here. And at least by video, I was supposed to be there live, and unfortunately I couldn't make it. But, I just want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody. And we've got a big year coming up ahead of us. And first of all, just want to let you know, or let Daniel know, how proud I am of you for putting yourself out to run for such an amazing, important position in the state of Texas. I know what it's like to be a candidate, but yours is even bigger than I ever did. And I just pray that you would just continue to stand strong as you have for all of your life. And I appreciate what you're doing. And, it's so unfortunate on politics and politicians. It's all about personality, unfortunately, not about policy. And so here we have some great people running for office, including Daniel. And yet these legislators, these senators, all these people involved in politics are so afraid to come out and tell the truth about the good things that have happened, but also about the things that didn't happen that should have. And we had so much of that this last legislative session. And a lot of it has to be the blame of our leadership. Our governor, our lieutenant governor, and our speaker. And it is just a shame that legislators continue to protect these big three that are in charge and are afraid to call them out. And so I am not afraid to call out these people. I've already endorsed against Governor Abbott months and months ago. Happy to endorse Daniel Miller. We need somebody who is about policy and not about personality. We have a lot of senators that are stepping down. There's a huge opportunity for a change in our legislature here in Texas. And so this is a great time to really make a push for change and for people that are going to get in office, especially on the governor's level also. Someone who's going to be in office that's going to listen to the people, not to their donors and not to the special interest groups that are already sold out. These politicians have been there for years and years. They're career politicians. They've already been bought and sold. You know exactly what they're going to do. They're going to talk like they're going to do what the Republicans want. And then when they get there, they're going to do what they've been doing because they've already been bought and sold. It's just very, very unfortunate. And so, again, I appreciate you standing up to run. But let's talk a minute about the legislative session. Again, I'm not running for re-election. I've been there for 3 terms. I believe in term limits, but I also believe that it's time for me to be home with my family right now. And I've got some great business opportunities with my Ace Hardware store that I've been pursuing for the last 6 months, and they look like they're going to come to fruition. So I'm grateful to be home, but I'm still going to be in the fight no matter what. But this session was very interesting because it was different than all the other sessions, especially because of COVID. COVID changed everything in the beginning, but gave the opportunity for Republican leadership, as well as the liberal Democrats, to completely take control over the session without saying or without people thinking they're taking control. They always take control with the timing on what bills they allow out, waiting till the last minute on very important things, and then saying we didn't have enough time. Well, COVID gave them all those excuses. And they took full advantage of them. And one of the biggest things that we missed out on this session, and what was one of the number one priorities for Republicans, was to rein in the governor's authority for executive orders and mandates without calling the legislature into session to get their feedback. 30 days, okay. 60 days, okay. This is a little different. This was a statewide situation, not just a flood in one area or a hurricane and so forth. But it's now going on. It went on a whole year And he never called us back. And then during session, that was what we worked on right from the beginning, and we didn't get a single bill to rein in executive power. And there you go. There's your crony capitalism right there, which led to not doing the right thing on our grid, not doing the right thing when it came to puberty blockers and other ways of child abuse for young people. It came to the same thing with so many taxpayer-funded lobbying, on and on and on. All those things never made it to the finish line. And even with the special sessions, the first one, of course, was ruined by the Democrats. And of course, there you go again. No penalties, no consequences for not showing up to the Capitol, which is totally against House rules, against the law. You're supposed to be there. And if not, then don't get paid. Well, they got paid. They got everything they wanted. Governor made a big deal about some of these things that he put on the call, but there were so many things he did not put on the call. And, it's just on and on and on. But this is the kind of things you put up with in the Capitol. And that's why we need new people, some new blood, and people that are going to be there for the state of Texas and not for themselves or for the donors. And so I'm very grateful to be able to be here tonight. I won't go through everything that we didn't do in the session. I mainly want to let you all know that no matter what we do for priorities, it's all up to leadership. And unless we get new leadership, then we're going to have the same situation every single session. And again, I'm grateful for you stepping up, Daniel. I'm grateful for Texas National Movement. I'm very grateful for this last session. Here's something to really get encouraged about instead of all the negatives and so forth. I'm getting phone calls from fellow representatives. And they're saying, Kyle, can you endorse me? I'm getting beat up in my district because people are asking why I didn't sign on to the Texit bill. There you go. The people are letting these candidates know, whether they're incumbents or not, that if you are an incumbent and you didn't sign on, that's going to be a problem. And so these people that never asked me for endorsements before are calling me for endorsements because they did not sign on. And I've got a number of people that I know of that are going to carry on and put that bill forward again this next session because it's so important. And we were ahead of the game. You've been ahead of the game, Texas National Movement and Daniel Miller, for 20 years, 10 years, 5 years. Well, how about last year? We were way ahead of the game getting that bill out, and a lot of people got left behind, and now they're trying to scramble. So take courage, stay strong, and I just want to say thank you, Dana, for coming to me and asking me to be part of your vision, which is the vision of the majority of the people here in the state of Texas. But it's also the vision, I believe, for what is right for this nation and the reason this nation was founded. And the principles it was founded on go straight toward us standing against tyranny. And we have to stand against tyranny. That's exactly what it is. And we have gotten this whole last year, if nothing will show you more how much we need Texit this last year. And so we'll continue working with these legislators to listen, and let's see what happens in the primaries. But I just want to say, God bless you all. Thank you for allowing me to be on here. And I'm still in the fight, and I won't give up, and I know you won't either. So God bless you all. Happy New Year, and we'll be seeing you soon. Bye-bye.
Hey, and thank you so much, Kyle, for sending that in. And look, being a part of the team. I mean, Kyle, you are a member of our family, and I cannot thank you enough for doing what you've done and taking the stand that you have taken. And I will say this, and I know I told you personally, but I will say it in front of everyone here. You will be sorely missed in the Texas legislature. And I know the folks there in your area are going to miss having you as a representative. But folks, you heard what he said. The fight is not over. Right. You caught that. There were a lot of takeaways from what Kyle said. And man, I'm going to tell you, if he had been on, it's probably better he sent a video, because if he had been on here in person, we'd have probably taken the entire 2 hours unpacking all of the things that he said, right? But here was one of the absolute most major takeaways from what he said, right? The thing that hit me the most, that put the biggest grin on my face, was when he said that there are state reps, colleagues, probably, I wouldn't surprise me if it was state senators too, that are burning up his phone, calling that did not sign on to 1359, did not support it, would not, in other words, treated their constituents like garbage, right? As we established at the very beginning of the year. They're calling him, wanting his endorsement to help blunt the criticism that they are getting in the district. And if you'll recall, one of the things that we said was that this battle would be fought in the districts. And these guys would have to know that there was going to be a heavy price to be paid for not supporting the right of the people under Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution to vote on this issue. And what you're hearing is Kyle Biedermann tell you right from his mouth that they are wearing out his phone, they're blowing up his phone, they're sending they're sending messages begging for his endorsement because the voters, the constituents in their district, are holding them accountable for violating our inalienable rights under Article 1, Section 2. So guess what? Kudos to you. Kudos to you for burning these people up, for violating your rights, your inalienable rights under Article 1, Section 2. They deserve every smidgen of misery that they possibly can, because what did we say? If they do not represent us, then they cannot represent us. And you notice what Kyle didn't say? He didn't say that he was endorsing them. He's not giving them cover. He's not going to make them feel better about themselves, right? He's holding them accountable too. They didn't help you. They didn't support your rights under Article 1, Section 2. And now they're under pressure. Now they're squealing and whining and crying. And now they're like, Kyle, come help me. And Kyle looked down and said, no. This is how you win, folks. Sometimes it's not immediate. Sometimes the payoff is not immediate. But this is how you win. And so that was, for me, one of the immediate takeaways from that was that the job that you have done and the job that you are doing in this organized fashion with the TNM is working. And here's the other thing, and Kara picked up on this when we were watching it, when Kyle submitted it earlier. Remember all those representatives and senators who said that, well, we haven't heard from any of our people. We haven't heard from any of our constituents that they want to vote on Texit. Really? So you're saying that you didn't hear from them then, but you are hearing from them now because you didn't support it? I find that very hard to believe. I find it very hard to believe that your sudden political deafness was cured with the coming of the election cycle. How convenient. Oh, now you can hear your constituents. And rather than going and throwing yourself on your sword and apologizing profusely to your constituents, you're slinking over to the man that had the actual courage to introduce a bill that would give the people of Texas a vote on Texas and asking for his blessing, which he's not giving you, apparently. So maybe, just maybe, if you are one of those candidates that would like to apologize to your constituents and say, you know what, I made a mistake, but I'll never make that mistake again. There's an easy way to do that. Number one is, if you're opposed by one of our TNM candidates, there's no walking it back. Okay. You're pretty much toast. We're going to ride that horse all the way to election day. But if you're not, and you want to apologize to your constituents, I'm sure they would be more than happy for you to come on here one Wednesday night with me, where you can directly apologize to them, admit your mistake, and then ask for their forgiveness and make a very solemn, solid, committed promise that you will never make that mistake again. I'm pretty sure they would be okay with that, or at least it would put you back in consideration. But if you're in one of those seats that, these guys decided to flee like rats from a sinking ship because the Texit pressure and everything else was too much, if you're running for one of those open seats and you haven't publicly made your commitment to support a vote on Texit, and I mean a pledge, which we'll get to that here in a bit, but a pledge, then I would take Kyle Biedermann's words as a solemn and sincere warning of the hell that your constituents are going to rain down on your head if you disappoint them in this regard. It's tough talk, but it's more than tough talk. It's literally there. We said this is what was going to happen, did we not? We said it. So, Kyle, thank you. You're awesome. You're an inspiration. And I can imagine if I were to go pop over that chat, I would see some people giving you major kudos. All right. So before we tear off into that and unpack that a little bit more and kind of talk about the first part of the year, I'm going to bring Nate on to do that. But before I do that, I am going to this has been, oddly enough, one of the most asked questions of me on Coffee Talk over the last 5 months, 6 months, right? Now, many of you will remember that I had to go to Dallas and my daughter was having brain surgery. And so I had to do Coffee Talk from a hotel room. And it really, a week doesn't go by that I don't get asked how she's doing. Now, fun thing is, if I were ranking the questions that I get on Coffee Talk, right, it's, I guess throughout the entire year, it would be number one, what will happen to my Social Security? Because that will always be the number one question I always get. Number two is, will you run for lieutenant governor? Which apparently has happened. It's happening. And number three, how's your daughter? I get asked everywhere. And not just on Coffee Talk. I get asked everywhere from those of you who watch on a regular basis. So what I decided to do was, rather than just tell you and answer it every week, I did this.
Hi, I'm Savannah Miller, the daughter of Daniel Miller, and I just wanted to let y'all know that I appreciate all the thoughts and the prayers that y'all have been sending my way over the past 6 months while I've recovered from my brain surgery. My recovery's gone very well, and I've actually returned back to college 1 month after my surgery and have maintained a 4.0 this semester. I still have close follow-ups with my neurosurgeon just to monitor my recovery, make sure there's no infections and that everything's healing correct, and so far everything looks perfect and I'm headed towards a full recovery. I just wanted to thank y'all again for all the prayers and kind words of encouragement y'all have been sending my way.
There we go. Straight from her mouth. So thank you, Savannah. I love you. And I know how uncomfortable that was to get on and shoot the video for everyone, but I really appreciate you doing it. And now that I think about it, the fact that you shot it on TikTok tells me you were probably not very uncomfortable with shooting videos on your phone. Anyway, so there you go. She's doing great. Right from her mouth. No need to ask. Although if you want to ask after her or any of the kids, I'm perfectly fine talking about that. But do not worry. She is doing phenomenally. Other than the fact she broke her ankle the other day. I know what the real story is, but I will just tell you that she broke it at karate class. Okay. All right. That being said, let me go ahead and shift over and let me go ahead and bring on our special guest, Executive Director of the Texas Nationalist Movement, my friend and colleague for many, many, many years, the one and only Nate Smith. Hello, Nate. Your mime skills are on point.
Boy, it helps to hit the unmute button.
Yeah, no doubt. You probably, you might want to bring your volume up a bit.
All right. That, and I probably need to move closer to the mic like we talked about.
Or move closer to the mic. That works too.
Well, that was a great video from Kyle.
Yes. Look, that video from Kyle was incredible. You know, it was like I said, I thought it was fitting because he was such an integral part of everything that happened this year. I really wanted to kick it off with him, and I was bummed that he couldn't make it live. But I got to tell you, the video was really and truly a treat. It was nice.
Yeah, that's you know, and I don't know if you're doing a top 10 at the end or anything. But if I were to rank a number one thing that happened this year, filing of HB 1359 is just a phenomenal progress that cannot be understated. I mean, this is, in the history of the organization since 2005, that is the single biggest step that we took forward. I mean, it's a massive, massive reason to celebrate. And the fact that it wasn't just Kyle, that he had support from more people, that it made it through Ledge Council, and that, you know, we learned about the halting of committees, but that's all right. You know,
Yeah.
I think, you know, from what I've been told from folks, bills rarely pass on their first time through. And it's not uncommon at all for them to get stalled out in a committee the first time they come through. So, you know, I'm not discouraged by that. I would have liked to seen it progress through. I would have liked to seen that vote in November. And I know there's a lot of people that are directly responsible for the reason why we did not have a vote on that in November, that we're looking forward to holding accountable, and continuing to hold accountable for that. But that said, the progress we made was absolutely tremendous.
It was fun, man. Look, and what Nate's saying, you guys have to understand the opposition really, they play checkers and we play chess. And I will liken it to this. For those of you that were not around when we made the run at the Republican Party of Texas State Convention to get the independence language added as a platform plank, I mean, it was a lot of work. But at the final moment where it was going to come up for a vote on the floor, and the vote was stolen from us, granted, but when the vote happened and didn't go in our favor, one of the members of the SREC who was sitting in front of me looked at me and she said, "I thought you'd be disappointed." Well, I'm over there giggling like a schoolgirl. And she's like, "I don't understand." So you don't get it, right? You thought that the ultimate end goal was to make sure this was on the platform. That was the gravy. That was the gravy on the chicken fried steak. What happened was the advancement that we made was having the issue debated on the floor of the world's largest political convention in front of media from all over the world, in front of all of those delegates, all the political movers and shakers, so much, and creating such a stir that Dan Patrick's chief of staff had to push him, or political consultant had to shove him in a stairwell so reporters would quit asking him questions about it, right? That was the thing. And were it not for what happened there, we would not have been able to build anything that happened. And this is one of those moments. That was this filing of House Bill 1359, this filing of Texit legislation, at least a Texit vote, legislation for a Texit vote. That was the logical next step, because once you impact and you show time and time again how many people support this thing, these things happen through this logical progression. And so the legislation was it. And what happened with the legislation, you know, the Chris Patties of the world, the Travis Clardies, the Jeff Leaches, you know, speaking as Kyle did of puberty blockers. But those guys think that they won, right? They think, oh, well, we shut them down, because they think this issue is going to go away. But what they fail to realize is the very act of filing the legislation put it in the record. It was advertised everywhere. It blew up all over the media. It awakened and activated so many Texans who thought, you know, I really want this, but I don't know that we can get it done. Well, there's no putting those people back to sleep. And we're seeing it happen right now, right, Nate?
Absolutely. I mean, one key event you would not have seen had Kyle not filed the bill would have been, and I hope I'm not jumping the gun on this, but the TNM had a governor's candidate forum. And not only that, every single one of the candidates in that virtual town hall came out and said they support a vote on Texit. The reason that they could do that was because 1359 was filed and it made it through Leg Council and made it through committee. That's more than one step right there. The fact that it had multiple co-authors and they saw all the calls coming into those offices and apparently still coming into the offices, as Kyle mentioned, that is the reason why you can see those three all stand up and say, we support a vote on Texit. And that, that is a huge next step. That's the chess, not the checkers game.
I know, right? Isn't that fun? They're playing flip a quarter, and we're breaking out the Sudoku puzzles. It's hilarious. That was a math thing for people out there. All of you math guys. Okay, so Nate, before we move on, I'm going to take somebody made a comment and Kara pinged me on it. SC Tex Bolivar says Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a congresswoman, openly discussing national divorce, and it's being reported. Hey, guess what? Check this out. Knowing everything we know about the federal system and the federal government right now, would you vote today to join the union? And if you wouldn't vote to join, why in the world would you ever vote to stay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I love his, yeah, it's like, oh, crap. He asked the question, and it's, this is what it's saying. It says national divorce is being reported. It's been happening. This year, we had the notable clip from Ted Cruz. We had Chip Roy on the floor of the United States Congress posing a form of that question. And we've seen it over and over and over and over. It was a big media year for Texas independence.
Yep, absolutely.
That was your Chris Salcedo. Yeah.
Yeah, the look on that face is like, would you vote to join? It was like, oh, no, I wouldn't.
Yeah. Oops.
You could read it.
I should have never let this man on my TV. I love it. Just trying to have a little fun, folks. Just trying to have a little fun. It's coffee talk, and I'm almost out of coffee already, and we're not even an hour in. So yeah, and that was I thought I'd fold that in to kind of piggyback off what we're talking about, which is really, this has been a very explosive year, a banner year for advancing the cause of Texas. And the first part of that equation, what we have been working for, is just increasing awareness among the people of Texas. And we did that in a lot of ways. Let's talk about some of the ways that the TNM was able to reach out and elevate this issue and create awareness.
Yeah. For me, I can't, we got to talk about the first part of the year, right? Which had to do with that legislative session, and where we had multiple capital action days, walking up and down the halls and getting kicked out of some offices and being welcomed into others with open arms. That was a powerful move. And even some of those folks that we had conversations with that didn't sign on, but they moved another step down the line. We had something specific to talk to them about with that bill. One of my favorites was when a couple of our members, George Brookins and Travis McQueen, went into, was it Kel Seliger's office to let him know that the Texas Nationalist movement is for all Texans, regardless of what they look like or where they come from.
Hey, you got to get a little closer to your mic. We're having
sorry.
people say they're having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, yeah. I was saying, when Travis McQueen and George Brookins, two of our district directors, went into, I think it was Kel Seliger's office to let him know that Texas Nationalist is for all Texans, regardless of, what they look like or where they were born. That's a powerful statement right there, and, undermined one of these common misconceptions about why we're here and what we're doing. This is not about anything other than what is best for all of the people of Texas.
Yeah, it was fun because, Seliger got on it and basically said that the entire root, or at least a fundamental motivation for support of Texit, was racism. That, it was basically Seliger wound up parroting kind of the talking points that we expect to hear from some of the whack jobs over on the progressive side of things, and really sort of a big litmus test there for where somebody is on the spectrum of things as far as being pro-Texas or anti-Texas. But Seliger mimicked all of that old crap that basically said that says that Texit support is old white men who shake their fist at Fox News. I mean, that's what he's saying. And guess what? That's not true. It's never been true. We've proven it's not true by especially a lot of people who are not white descending on your office, Kel Seliger, and basically demanding an apology. And guess who's not running for re-election? Oh my, it's Kel Seliger.
Funny how that comes back to bite them.
It does. And some people will say that some of the motivation for these guys like Seliger not to run has nothing to do with Texas, but I find it very difficult. I find, I'm not a big believer in coincidence, although it's a real thing, right? I mean, things can happen that are completely unrelated, but you cannot escape the fact that some of the people that were the most dastardly toward us are some of the people that are not going to be showing their face in the Texas legislature anymore. Seliger being one of them, Chris Patty being the other. Gone, baby, gone.
Absolutely. So, that took place on one of those many Capitol Action Days that we had this year. And, the one that we did that was the National Capitol Action Day, we brought people together from all over the state. I remember a very fond moment from that when Representative Biedermann came out to greet us in the Capitol Rotunda, and we shouted calls for Texit throughout the halls of the Capitol while they're in session. This happened this year. Not in a rude or disruptive way, but in a very loud, proud Texan way. Our voices were heard. There were a lot of people stopping to look and see what we were doing. There was no denying that we were there, that our presence was there, that what Texans wanted was getting heard no matter what it took. And I think that's the segue to another big win and a big action was what happened when Chris Patty denied our ability to even have testimony on the bill.
That was one of the big deals. We love to be groundbreakers. Right. We love to be pioneers and try things. I mean, let's be honest. We're the first and only organization to ever utilize the 172.088, right, for the petition. The play that we're running, the thing that we're doing with candidates has never been done in the way that we're doing it. And, that really kicked off this year. We want to talk about the big daddy of the big daddies, the denial of a hearing on House Bill 1359, and then the launching of a virtual committee hearing following the same rules, and then rolling up there into their press room and just dropping the hammer on those guys and launching 24 hours of virtual testimony had to be honestly one of my personal highlights of the year.
That's a massive event. Yeah, and we didn't just launch it online. We made sure that we had some part of our hearing in the Capitol building by doing that in the press room with the co-authors of the bill, speaking to the press as well. Really, really a tremendous event, and as powerful as that was, it was a fraction of the power of the incredibly diverse, well thought out testimonies that were given by everyday Texans, by Texans across every geographic area, every socioeconomic background, from young to old. I mean, you name it, we saw it. And I mean, there were testimony that brought tears to my eyes as we listened to the passion and the reason why. And this is such a powerful cause that we're working behind. This is for the future of Texas. This is for liberty. There's countless people in the past, countless Texans, and some of them were just brand new here, that gave their lives to see this happen in their time, and they certainly want to see it happen again, where Texans have the right to be free and govern themselves. And as that was expressed in so many ways through that virtual testimony for 24 hours nonstop, it was just absolutely incredible. It's there's not words to describe.
It is hard to wrap your head around, but and you know it's. I talk about it. I think we all do a good bit, but I think people probably that if you're brand new, right? If you're just now coming upon the TNM, you would do yourself good to go back and look at that testimony, which is still streaming, right? We left it streaming. If you go to tnm.me/HB1359, it's still streaming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can go over there, you can watch it and just pick it up wherever it is. There have been what was one of your standouts from that testimony? What was one that really, I mean, other than your own, because you were literally the only testimony that played the guitar.
I did play a little guitar on it, yeah. For me, it was some of the young students that weren't even old enough to vote yet. I mean, there were two of them in particular that just dropped the mic on, not only why we had the right to do it and why we should do it, but calling for their future. And, to me, I know a lot of the people that fall on the other end of the age spectrum, the reason why they're putting in their time and their effort to support this is because they want to leave a legacy behind. But to hear it from the people that are having to look at living in 70 years more of Texas on the path that it's on, and stare down, this monstrosity that's being handed down to their generation, that testimony to me is just the most powerful. I mean, that if you're not being involved in Texit, or in the efforts of the TNM and the things that we're doing because you love your fellow Texans and you want to leave something better behind, then I'm not quite sure what your motivation is. If that's not at least a part of it, then I think there's a big challenge. So I know for me that is an absolutely huge part of it. So, when you hear people go like, we want to do this, not for myself, not for a tax break, that's nice. To get a short-term benefit or relief from the alleged 2% inflation that we're going to have next year. They were talking about on the media. I mean, come on. But, it's not for a relief from the real increase in the direct atrocities that we're facing, but it's about, what are we handing down next? What is the legacy we're leaving behind? What is the direct responsibility that we're assuming for what's going on in Texas right now today to make sure that things are actually improving and that liberty remains strong and gets stronger versus, what's coming out of Washington, D.C.
Right. Yeah, it was great to hear. And I mean, all the different perspectives, I think the thing about the testimony for House Bill 1359 that for me was so compelling was that the various, people that approached it from, various ages. I mean, we talked about it. We had, 14, 15-year-olds all the way up to, I think the oldest was like 90 years old. It was a World War II vet. So somewhere in that ballpark. We had all of those age ranges in between. And we had all walks of life, profession from students to doctors to to educators to, there was I think a guy who worked as a busboy, if I remember correctly, white collar, blue. I mean, it was all of these people, and they were talking about their individual motivations, and all roads led to, we want to vote on Texit. We are motivated to see Texas become an independent nation, but more than anything, we just want the ability to vote on the issue. And the thing overall, like the sort of the big takeaway was that one span of 24 hours of testimony destroyed every opposition narrative about Texas independence, right? I mean, it absolutely demolished any of their opposition to it. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to play one that I talk about. And of course, I know this person is a regular viewer of Coffee Talk. And I actually talk about this particular testimony in my speeches on a regular basis. So, Yona, this one is for you.
Hello, members of the elected. My name is Yona Ramos, and I live in Austin. I'm almost 15 years old, an Orthodox Jew, and my family has been in Texas since before 1836. I speak to you today on urgent matters. We are at a crossroads in history which will decide my future. Your actions will have irreversible effects on how my life will be. Because of this, I feel obligated to remind you of something. The Texan identity is built on independence. Settlers came here in the first place because they had nothing left for them from whence they came. The people who came here were outcasts, dreamers who had been forgotten, the type who would strive for a better life, not put up with a bad one. So in search of that better life, they came here. They came independent of their past and independent of their future. They wanted to decide their own destiny. So when the land they came to was occupied by a tyrant who threatened their entire way of life, they did not stand back and watch. No, instead they took up arms in pursuit of their freedom and independence. Even though they knew they likely wouldn't win, they went to battle anyway. Because even the slightest chance that they could win, control their own destiny, chart their own path forward, was enough to motivate their resolve. And today we are once again faced with the same crisis of freedom. Our allegiance to the Union was gained from a promise that such a union would protect our way of life, our rights, and most importantly, our liberty. But now, that liberty is being threatened by the very thing that promised to protect it. The union of our state to those other dysfunctional states is only detrimental to us now. I wish that the union had stayed as it was, a good and prosperous one, but we must recognize that it has been tainted. These United States are no longer the same that we once held dear. Now they are merely the empty shell of what was once a free nation. Thanks to the efforts of the corrupt establishment elite, the Union is now controlled by an authoritarian aristocracy, an aristocracy that was put into power against the will of the people on a foundation of lies, evil, and corruption. And now, through means of executive order, manipulated private action, and unconstitutional law, that aristocracy intends to destroy our freedoms. But by merit of being Texans, we, and by your duty you, will not put up with it. I know we love our country, and it holds truths to be self-evident and pure, but it no longer holds those values with us. At this point in time, Texas is a bulwark against complete destruction of self-governance, freedom, and liberty. So I call upon you, the members of the chosen government whose duty is to represent us. Do not stand back and wait knowing you could have done the right thing at this moment. You must take action for our freedom, your freedom, the freedom to be liberal or conservative, the freedom to even think as you please and do accordingly, is being threatened by a select few 1,523 miles away. Do what is right, that which you know you must. The eyes of freedom are upon you.
Boom, shakalaka. I mean, that was one of my favorites.
Absolutely.
Well, I tell you what, Nate, we're getting ready to close out. We're getting close to the end of the first hour. And let's go out of this hour with a song.
All right.
Let's save Texan Arise for the end, though.
Okay.
So while Nate is doing his line checks and everything else, for those of you just now joining us, remember, if you chat, if you send a question or comment on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, we see those, and they are being funneled to me, and I have got a bevy of those that we're going to get to in hour number 2, because I see a lot of interesting segues for so many of these things. I mean, it wouldn't be a coffee talk without your questions and your interaction, right? But many of you have asked when we started doing this, like almost as a proper show. It's not a show. It's still my opportunity to decompress, right? But when we started doing this as a proper show, Nate was kind enough to allow me to use his song that is unreleased, that some of you have heard him play at T&M events before, right? I have seen him actually play it on a guitar on a one wheel in a parking lot, but that's a story for another day. But so you guys asked, well, people ask all the time about who wrote the song. Where's that song come from? Well, the answer is the executive director of the Texas Nationalist movement, Nate Smith, is a musician. And so, among his many, many other talents, but he is a musician. He loves to ride, loves to play. He's played at T&M events all the time. And so the song that we kick off Coffee Talk with, and that is probably going to become my de facto campaign song because I can't get a release from Noel Gallagher's Fort Knox, that's what you hear. You're seeing Nate. You're going to see Nate perform that live, but at the tail end. But what you don't understand probably is that he has written an entire album full of songs about Texas independence that is unreleased. So I'm going to let him choose. I have a thought of which one I would like for you to play, but I don't take requests either. So go for it.
Well, we're going to do one called Texit. If you feel you've no real voice, and at the polls there's no good choice, and the best is a lesser evil of just two, then it is time for a real change. Instead of voting more of the same, only one solution restores the power to you. When Texan rights have been impaired, and it's gone on for many years, there's only one way left to correct it. You know the Texans are the best to decide the future of Texas, so pledge your vote today for Texit. July the 4th, we celebrate an exit of the United States with the British Empire that denied them representation. And history repeats, they say, and Britain's past became their fate when a Brexit vote restored Britain's status as a nation. When the Constitution is ignored, state sovereignty thrown overboard, and all attempts to repair it have been rejected. You know the Texans are the best to decide the future of Texas, so pledge your vote today for Texit. And now we have a debt so high, no limits seem to apply. Is that the future we want for our Lone Star? What if tax dollars stayed in our state and Texans had the final say? Well, that's a future I'd be happy to vote for. You see corruption in D.C. or want a real tax decrease, there's only one solution left, you guessed it. You know the Texans are the best to decide the future of Texas, so pledge your vote today for Texit. Want border security or a Texas foreign policy? Are you tired of a government that acts so reckless? You know the Texans are the best to decide the future of Texas, so pledge your vote today for Texas. Do you love this Lone Star State? Have countless reasons why it's great. Perhaps you believe that God blessed it. Yes, He did. You know the Texans are the best to decide the future of Texas, so pledge your vote today for Texas.
Bravo. That's the one. That's the one I was thinking. So thank you.
All right.
Wonderful. All right. So let's talk about that because we still have like a minute left in this hour. People want to know where they can hear your music, so let them know. And you can. And by the way, saying find me at a T&M event is an acceptable answer.
Okay. Well, yeah. Find me at a T&M event. I do have a. For all the tech and the things that we work on, when it comes to the personal projects, it gets a little slow. So I do have a Facebook page. Texan Nate. You can find me on there. You can find me at natesmithtexan.com. That's where the email list is you can sign up for, and that is Texan without the A, just TEXN.
Okay, there you go. And, the other thing is show up to a T&M event, because anywhere we have an event where there's a meeting or training, Nate will always bring his guitar and will always break it out and play. And, you need to go on the road with me when I'm doing these campaign things, man.
Oh, can we get on the back of a train, like on the caboose, and do a little railroad stop?
Well, the old saying, I wish I could remember who it was, but it was pre-1940s, and they used to say that you couldn't win a political office in Texas without a band.
Yeah. That's pretty funny. You gotta have a fiddle in the band if you're gonna play in Texas, but apparently you gotta have a band if you're gonna run for office in Texas.
Apparently, right? All right. So look, we're done with the first hour. We're gonna go to a quick break. So everybody can stretch legs and things of that nature, and we'll be right back in a couple of minutes. Don't go anywhere. Yeah, don't go anywhere. Stay right where you are. Let's get this done.
Lower your property taxes. And we're going to get that done.
A report by the House Ways and Means Committee predicted many homeowners would see taxes increase regardless.
But this session, we are going to take a major step in reducing your property taxes, because people need to be able to afford to live in their homes and operate their businesses without being taxed out of them. We will pass major property tax relief.
I studied the property tax plans for about 50 governments, cities, counties, and school districts, and I could hardly find any that aren't raising taxes.
As your lieutenant governor, I will pass legislation to cut property taxes again next session. This is a great day for homeowners and business owners who are sick and tired of seeing their property taxes go up 7, 8, 9, 10% or more every year. Those days are over.
Here's your stimulus check for $1,200, and here's your bill for $4,000 for your property tax.
This is fun.
Come join the campaign. Let's take Texas back. Thank you.
Secure the border. Lower your property taxes. And we're going to get that done.
My name is Dan Govach. I'm a native Texan, 58 years. I'm a professional musician and a teacher. And January 31st of 2015, my then 25-year-old son, Spencer Govach, had his brains blown out by a 4-time deported illegal alien that had a nasty 15-year rap sheet and had done 5 years in prison for attempted murder. This was just a random act at a red light. He went on to take out 2 more Americans that night before he was stopped. Since then, I've been active in politics, and I've been to D.C., I've met with the president, and I've come to the conclusion that really there is absolutely no hope whatsoever of the cesspool of bribery, blackmail, and direct intimidation in D.C. To ever fix this problem and protect our citizens here in Texas. And I am firmly of the opinion that the only way that we're going to ever be able to not only protect our safety, but to protect our inalienable rights and freedom and liberty is by becoming an independent state and doing the job that the federal government won't do ourselves. That's the only way it's going to happen. Texans are the only real protection for Texans. It's not going to come from Washington, D.C., sadly to say, but that's just where it is, and I am a staunch supporter of Texas independence, and I think the time is now to move. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
It is for all of these reasons and more that tonight I am officially announcing that I will be running as a Republican candidate to become the next lieutenant governor of the great state of Texas. And we are back, and welcome to this special early and expanded edition of Late Night Coffee Talk. You know, normally by this time I would be prepping and sitting down and getting ready to do this because it normally goes 9:30 to 10:30. But here we are, an early and expanded edition that deals with our look back on 2021. And so far, we've covered a lot of territory. We had a special message from State Representative Kyle Biedermann, who really informed us of a lot that's going on and what we can expect in the future. We obviously had the answer to the third most asked question that I have received this year, which is, how was your daughter, Savannah? We have talked about the disposition of House Bill 1359. We talked about the virtual committee hearing, the virtual testimony that we got, played some of that testimony. And then we had, as we closed out the hour, we had the executive director of the Texas Nationalist movement play a little song for us. And apparently you guys enjoyed it from the comments that I'm seeing. Before I bring Nate back on, let me go ahead and remind everyone, if you are watching on YouTube, please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And of course, if you were on the TNM's YouTube channel, feel free to use Super Chat. Donations through Super Chat go straight to the TNM and the work that the TNM does. And because it was asked at some point, if you would like to donate directly to my campaign for Lieutenant Governor, you can head over to dmcdonate.com. That is dmcdonate.com. DMC as in Daniel Miller Campaign. And that will take you right there. And we have a rather important campaign finance deadline coming up. Man, I went mime. Thank you for the heads up, Nate. Jeez Louise. I coughed and I guess I blew out the sound. No, I didn't. I hit the mute button and tried to unhit it, but didn't do it. But as I was saying, right before I started miming and was really, what I really said at that point was geared toward lip readers. So if you were a lip reader, congratulations. You know what I said. If you're not a lip reader, sorry, you're not in on the secret. No, as I was saying, we have an important campaign finance deadline coming up, and December the 31st. And I will tell you, we want scads and scads of contributions. And I don't mean, like I said, mortgage your second house, get a second mortgage on your house. Don't do anything like that. But as I was saying to the lip readers out there, $1,005 contributions has more weight to it than one $5,000 contribution. It's just the way that it is. And people need to understand that the campaign that we are running for Lieutenant Governor is powered by you, right? I firmly believe it has been my watchword for the 25 years that I've been at this, is that all political power is inherent in the people. And that's you. So if you want to see us succeed, and you want to see us have an opportunity to take our message of the political, cultural, and economic independence of Texas into Austin, right into the office of the Lieutenant Governor, then I need your support. DMCDonate.com, Daniel Miller Campaign, right? DMCDonate.com. Okay, and look, if you're watching on Facebook, do your thing. Remember, we are watching all of the comments, all the suggestions. They are being distilled down by my lovely bride, Kara, and she is popping them over here as necessary. And I know that there are some in there. And remember, we can't get to all of them, but we're going to try. And right now, a lot of your questions, a lot of your conversations are driving the direction of this discussion tonight. Nate, this is starting to feel like a show.
Oh, is it now?
Yeah, I didn't set out to do a show, but it's starting to feel like a show.
You know, it's been a pretty regular occurrence to not almost become a show.
Well,
I think it was destined to happen.
Well, it's the old radio days. I did an interview the other day with the guys over at HTX Renegade Radio, and they made me do my Radio Free Texas tagline from when I was a DJ, when I was doing my regular DJ shift at the tail end of it. Good evening, Texas music fans. This is El Presidente, and you were listening to the one and only Radio Free Texas, purveyors of the finest Texas music on the World Wide Web. Can you believe I still remember that?
Chewbacca.
If you know, you know.
Yeah.
All right. So look, we've covered a lot of territory. We got some music, and of course, we're looking at 2021. One of the things that we have to, and I think we have to really dig deep in and talk about, is really the level of volunteerism that we saw in 2021. How many people not just got into the T&M, not just jammed their hand in the air and said, yeah, I'm for Texit, but how many of them dug in and really got involved in the process?
It is truly mind-blowing the number of people that stepped up and put in work this year. Like you said, I mean, there was a tremendous increase in paying members. There was a lot that people found attractive about T&M and its message this year. We've been steadily growing, but it was nice to see a big uptick for 2021. So that level of increased supporters, I know a lot of people watch the ticker on the website, so you probably saw that at the beginning of the year we were in the 300s, the upper 300,000s as we rolled over New Year's and 2021, and now we're about to hit the next year and we're just shy of 430,000. So there was a ton of new declared supporters. And there's actually even more than what's represented there, because we're still getting some of those entered in as supporters that signed the petition. And the petition that we launched this year, that was one of the most engaging driving factors where we saw this direct activism and volunteerism. We talked about in the spring how the focus was on the Capitol Action Days and how, we had over 100 volunteers there walking the halls of the Capitol on the day that we went in April, but they continued from before to after that. There were multiple district action days that came there and things like that. So we saw that, but when the petition drive kicked in, that's where you started seeing a lot bigger numbers hit. For a lot of people, it was a wake-up call at how difficult it is to get in-person, real deal petition signatures. But seeing 700 circulators sign up, take the course. I mean, they went through a 30-minute course to teach them the ins and outs, because we weren't just winging this. We knew that we couldn't risk it with the efforts that we were taking. We put them through a real course to teach them the legal way to circulate this petition and be in compliance with the election code. And, to have that many people step up through that, the number of people that were then out and collecting, I mean, we had over 200 people get over 30 signatures, if I remember right. I'm trying to pull the numbers out of my memory. And, over 100 people, I think, get 100 signatures that they collected and turned in. And I tell you, folks, it's not a small effort. I had, someone came to me that pledged a whole lot of signatures, and they're like, you know, I've really been working it. I put in a lot of hours. I'm talking to a lot of people. I don't think I'm doing anything wrong, but this is a lot more work than I thought it would be. And it is. I mean, when we talked on the accelerators this year about the signature rates per hour that you could get, you know, that was the volunteer time that they were out actually collecting signatures. That was the time from when you started engaging the public to when you quit engaging the public that this was going on. And, you know, that took a lot of hours to be able to get 5-10 signatures per hour, or, you know, some of the highest counts we saw on that was 20 to 25 signatures per hour. If you were at just the right event with just the right flow of people coming to you, you could do that. But that's not how most of these signatures were gotten. I mean, we had volunteers driving from household to sign supporters. A supporter would call in and say, I want to sign the petition. They would drive to their house and get the signature. That's massive. But outside of that, even specific collection window was the work that went in to plan those events, to set up those events, to coordinate volunteers when there was more than one person involved. And I got to say, you know, I don't think we have a good tally of the number of volunteer hours that went in this year from T&M, but it is massive. It was outstanding. You know, I couldn't be more thrilled from that. I really couldn't. That's been a huge part of that. You know, Daniel, what's your take on all of that?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not like I've been bashful, you know, about my, you know, about my feelings related to the petition, right? I mean, if for any of you that have wanted to know, if you keep asking me about the petition, all I'm going to do is just keep pointing you back to previous things that we have said, previous things that we have posted. We haven't been secretive about it, right? And you know, it was an interesting exercise from my perspective, right? Because you got to remember, this year was the 25th anniversary of me crossing my personal line in the sand, right? So it was super important from my perspective that we do everything we could to get this thing across the finish line. And part of the big challenge that we had first and foremost is that, number one, the way the statute reads makes it extraordinarily difficult, right? There's a reason this hasn't been done before, because it's extraordinarily difficult. And to give you guys some perspective, particularly what Nate's talking about with all these volunteer hours, when we talk to the consultant that works for a company that does this, the price tag was $800,000, right? If we were going to hire them to do it, it was going to cost us $800,000. And we said, well, we're not going to be able to raise that kind of money because we're just not. And number two, we're going to do it and we're going to attempt it with all volunteers. And he looked at us like we had gotten a big hit on the head, like we had literally taken a swan dive off of the Empire State Building head first, with no appropriate headgear, right? I mean, it was one of those things because it's crazy. And to give some context, and this is the context that I think I talked about on the last one, well, I said the statute. Okay, so the statute, and I don't want to veer off course here, but the statute is stacked against people doing what we're trying to do. And here's the example. If I wanted to collect signatures to run for lieutenant governor, right? Because I paid my money. But if I wanted to collect signatures to run, be able to file to run for lieutenant governor in the primaries, the maximum I would have to collect is 5,000. Okay. That is the most. You hit 5,000, you're on the ballot. Okay. The gubernatorial candidates were all circulating petitions, every one of them, including Governor Abbott. Now, I want you to remember that Greg Abbott has a war chest in excess of $70 million, right? Both accounts combined. I mean, he's got a lot of money. He also has a staff, and that staff, hang on just a second, I'm sorry. I'm getting distracted over here. And that staff had to the point that staff has its own retirement plan, right? So he's got statewide staffers that are in charge of this. And so the petition collection window is exactly the same, right? It's the same 6 months. It's the same, sort of the same language, kind of, with the exception of ours was a resolution. Theirs is getting them on the ballot. They have to do the same things. They have to read the statement at the top of the page. They have to collect the signature. They got to do their due diligence. They got to do all that stuff, right? And so Abbott came in that same time period and submitted his petition signatures to the state of Texas, and and collected about 20,000 signatures, right? About 20,000. So anyone out there who kind of, these armchair quarterbacks out there that somehow think that this was some cakewalk, well, you got 400,000 people. How come you can't get this done? Well, you don't know what you're talking about, right? That is an uneducated. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say I think Abbott had 10 million voters. So what's his excuse?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like I told this one knucklehead who wanted to criticize our volunteers, right? Because when you're criticizing, they think that they're coming at me, right? And they think they're hurting me, but they're not hurting me. The only way they're hurting me is they're crapping all over our volunteers, and I can't abide that, because, as I said and have said time and time again, the people in the TNM are family to me. And just like I would protect one of my own, you guys saw my daughter earlier. If somebody came against my daughter and started, hammering on her or hammering on my wife, I would be incensed. And so when they come and start saying things about this, what the implication is that our volunteers didn't take care of business. And let me tell you something. I don't accept that sort of criticism from anyone who has never run a statewide petition campaign, did not collect a single signature, or didn't put in any time. Because what I saw the volunteers of the TNM working harder than the volunteers for any other organization I have ever witnessed in my entire life. I would put our people up against any volunteers from any other organization every day of the week, twice on Sundays, and 3 times on the 5th Sunday of the month, in a month that has 5 Sundays. And I know that because I was raised Baptist and we would have 5th Sunday singings, but that is another story. But that's the thing about it, right? So the bar was set is intentionally high in the statute, right? And the thumbs on the scales. And so we told everyone right at the beginning, look, here's the window. We hit it or we don't. It's going to be extraordinarily difficult. This is what we need to get it done. And unfortunately, we had, just like the Texian army during the Texas Revolution, we had some people jam their hands in the air and then elect not to participate, not do their share. But I don't think that anyone should think that that is an excuse to disparage the work that was done for the petition, around the petition. And the fact of the matter is, folks, it ain't over yet. Yes, we're aware that the filing window has closed, but guess what? There is a lawsuit. There are 3 lawsuits pending right now challenging those maps. And guess what happens? If that window reopens, that filing window reopens, the closing date becomes the new deadline. So that's why we're still collecting petition signatures. So while some of you people are out there playing checkers, it's always the checker players, Nate, always the checker players, right? So while some of you are out there playing checkers and armchair quarterbacking, our volunteers are still out there in the midst of the Christmas season, busting their tails and collecting petition signatures, and are going to do that until we are absolutely certain that the primary will be March 1st, or until that lawsuit hits and that window reopens. But we're going to keep collecting because it ain't over till it's over. And guess what? Since Kyle filed that bill, it ain't never going to be over until we get and win a referendum on Texas independence. And you better get that through your heads right now, because if you think we're going away, you are sadly mistaken.
Yep.
Sorry, I got a little soapboxy, Nate.
No, it's good. It's good. It's one of the things I was hoping to be able to talk about tonight was, for many of you that have asked questions, we did not get enough signatures in time to file them for December the 13th. And the follow-up to that is pay close attention. We are still collecting signatures for all the reasons that Daniel just mentioned. So it is still going on, but you talked about the Abbott example, and I actually had I was listening to an announcement from another Texas organization, kind of similar to this, and they apparently also ran a petition this year, not under 172.088, not to put anything on a ballot, just a regular website petition. And I heard them mention that they had 100,000 signatures, and I was like, whoa, well, okay, that's impressive. And then they said this year in their online petition, the new that they added this year was 30,000. So their efforts with their volunteers came short of what we did in 6 months. They had a whole year to do it online, and yet they came short of what we've already collected. So, I think if there's a testament to the work that our people did, our people had to get out on the streets. Our people went out to the public. They talked. They had the conversations with Texans. And I want to talk about what a powerful win the number of signatures that we got is. It is a massive, massive win, because it is not even just the signatures, the tens of thousands of Texans that put their name on the line and said, yes, I'm comfortable. I'll give you my information. I understand the statement. I will commit to voting in a Republican primary ballot, even though I don't know what that means. And I'm going to sign this up because I think Texit is important. It took a lot of people to make that commitment, but there were way more conversations that happened with Texans, people that were unsure that are now thinking about it. People that when we went to a Lone Star rally in Galveston and had over 50 volunteers there, then there's 400,000 people descended upon the island for this rally. They saw T&M and Texit shirt after Texit shirt after Texit shirt, clipboard after clipboard. They were asked by multiple people, for many of them. That is the awareness and the reach. I mean, it's not just the advertising campaigns where we had billboards all over Texas talking about it this year. The most powerful thing is that they saw these hardworking volunteers out in the public to meet them, to ask them the question. And I'm a fairly shy person. I will be honest. I told them on the CPC Accelerator, there are times, especially in the beginning as I was collecting signatures, where I would have to sit in my vehicle and build up the courage to go start asking the public to sign a petition. For many people, it is not an easy thing to do. And, but it happened. People did that tens of thousands of times, hundreds of thousands of engagements with people, and visibility. I mean, I'm confident over 1 million Texans saw us out collecting signatures. We had that kind of exposure. Do not underestimate the power of that, because it is the combination of that and the things like getting HB 1359 file that led to one of the things that Daniel mentioned earlier. Chip Roy being able to stand on the floor of the House and talk about, well, Texans should probably consider leaving. It takes a protection of the political class to even be able to make those statements. And the work that we're doing is what gives them some cover to begin to make that. I think a more notable one on that line, even, that got a lot of press here recently, was the fact that Senator Cruz got on a show and talked about under what conditions he thought Texas should leave the union. That's something that was a result of not only the HB 1359 and all the work that the T&M volunteers put in at the Capitol, working to get the co-authors that we got and to get the support that we got amongst the legislature there, but that continued work that we did to bring exposure and go out and ask people to sign the petition. Those things are what allowed those conversations to happen. Those things are what enabled the students to ask those questions and feel comfortable to ask it in any environment. And it's what enabled Senator Cruz to be able to make the response that he made. That it was no longer a taboo topic that he could just I'm going to have to ignore that. He didn't get the chance to sidestep it. He took it head on and said, we have the right to do it, and we probably should under these circumstances. What a powerful year.
Yeah. I mean, there is absolutely no doubt. And what everyone, I think, needs to understand, if you haven't figured it out yet, is for us, every plan has a plan and another plan within the plan, and everything works together. And understand that this is not about, and never has been. I mean, we would love to get it done like that, right? I say often, You know, people say, well, what's taking you so long? Well, it's not taking me any length of time whatsoever. I've been at it for 25 years. If I could snap my fingers or wave a magic wand, it would already be done. And I would be doing something else with my life, which is really what I want to do. I want to win, and then I want to go do something else with my life, right? But that's the thing about it is everything that we do must advance the cause, right? Support the mission, political, cultural, economic independence, secure and protect the constitutional republic and the inherent rights of the people of Texas. That's the mission. And for that gentleman who continues to troll our people, I think it's in the YouTube chat, go over to our About page, read our mission statement, and if you still can't figure it out, go grab a dictionary and work on it. Maybe somebody will help you, right? That's our mission. That's what we do. But the fact of the matter is that we have to advance, and if it comes in small bits or large bits, right? So and some days you're the bug and some days you're the windshield, right? But at least you're fighting another day. You're another day closer to Texas independence. And the petition paid off in so many ways. First off, it's not over. Number two is, think about how many people, I mean, millions of people saw the Texit Now billboards. How many media appearances? How many speaking events? We literally, Karen and I were talking about this before that we kicked off tonight. And she's like, look, you need to make sure you need to remind everyone that the organization was active from the top of the panhandle to the tip of Texas, from out in El Paso all the way over here to Orange and Northeast Texas and all points in between. And whether that was us as the executive team traveling and me going to speak, which there was a lot of that, or our volunteers out and about having meetups, forming local groups, having outreach events, having petition signing events, we were, without a doubt, the most active political advocacy organization in Texas over the last year. And it ain't going to quit. It's only going to get better. There's only going to be more of that. And that makes me happy.
It is definitely a reason to celebrate. I want to add to that. If you collected a signature on the petition, or even if you signed the petition, pat yourself on the back. If you haven't done it yet and you're watching this, you better go to texitpetition.com and sign right now, because you still can. It's not too late.
Yeah.
But be grateful for those that put the time out there. If you weren't able to do it yourself, be grateful for those that did. And if you really want to make the difference and you weren't able to get out there, guess what? We've got opportunities, because Daniel just hit on another big component of this. It wasn't just a petition drive. It was this field organization that we've been developing, right? It's the district directors that we have and the local coordinators and deputy local coordinators that are leading those groups, that are holding meetups. If you look at who was doing a lot of petition signatures and putting in the time, they either were a local coordinator or they are now. Some of them got their fill and had to leave and go work for other family things, because they got out and they worked hard, and we appreciate the work of everybody that did that. And so they had to move to the next thing, but I suspect a lot of them will be back too. But it's no small thing to go out and spend hours and weekends and weeknights and go into all these different events to engage with people. And there's some events you show up to where either most of the room's already signed the petition, or it's just not the right crowd to get signatures from. There's so many events that took place. We had an unbelievable amount on the calendar itself, and there were far more that never even made it on our event calendar. So if you were just going by that often very long email that came into your box of all the different things that we were doing in a weekend, believe me, that was not the whole story by any stretch of the means. So, a huge thank you to everyone that volunteered and participated in that, and to all those that are just now coming in and stepping into that role. It's extremely powerful. If you're interested and you want to help out, becoming a local coordinator, if there's not one in your area, is a great first step. We've got dozens of those spinning up right now. We've got lots of folks and training for that and completing that up. We're going to finish the year very strong with local groups and with the districts we've been developing. For those of you that don't know, our district directors are based on the Texas Senate districts. So, if you go to the tnm.me/groups, and if you don't see a group in your area, then you can feel free to volunteer to be the local coordinator for that. On our volunteer page as well, you can see the districts that have applications open for a district director. We're happy to have folks apply for that as well. There's a tremendous opportunity to get involved in the field level, and there's going to be a whole different, fun, challenging set of ways to engage in 2022 that we have to look forward to. But I know this is a recap, so again, I want to say thank you to all the individuals that made possible the effort that we had, and just really, I was going to take it a different direction, but I want to leave it right there. Just thank you so much for the effort that you put in on all the different things. This was a tremendous, tremendous year. I really can't state that enough.
Okay, well, let me take it another direction. Nate, where's your coffee?
I have a cup, but it is empty.
Oh, well, we had a break.
Yeah. I already drank what I had made up earlier, so I didn't have time to brew another pot.
Well, good. Then we'll suffer together because I just took that one down. Wow. Okay. So you heard what Nate said. If you want to be a part of a local group. Oh yeah. I'm about to get coffee, Nate. Don't be jealous.
Oh man.
What
flavor?
Coffee.
Coffee. Okay.
Yeah.
I
Coffee
know
flavor.
You've had a lot of coffee coming your way. I've heard on the last.
I have. People have been quite kind and generous in sharing. Thank you very much. In sharing coffee with me. I've had some phenomenal. Had a drop by last week. So to everyone, you guys have been very kind to keep me fueled up. Which, you know what? That's a good segue into a question. Janie, she's on Facebook. She is one of our star players. If this was a team, she would be a star player, right? Janie says, How many days a week are you campaigning right now? All of them. All of them. All the time. And I will tell you that it is quite difficult. That it is, campaigning is not just traveling. Although if you go look at the calendar on my website, which is here, you'll look at the calendar. There are events all over that thing. And there's about to be some more on there too, because we're about to start filling in dates with events that we spin up and meetups and things of that nature. So go there, find the calendar or whatever. But yeah, every day. It's a dead run, right? I mean, we got to go in there and get her done. But, we're jumping ahead a little bit. Let me go ahead and take this question too. El Barto there on YouTube. Will Daniel campaign wearing a Stetson, and may we fundraise for a cowboy hat? Okay. So I don't know which one of the campaign team put you up to that question, but I'm sure it feels like someone did, because this is a very recent conversation that we have had. And I will tell you the thing, okay? I would love to have a cowboy hat, right? I love a cowboy hat. I've got one, kind of a standard off-the-shelf cowboy hat, but, doesn't really kind of go with a suit. I would love to have a cowboy hat, but here's the thing about it. I have never worn a cowboy hat, right? Not on a regular basis, right? You've never seen me in one. Some of you have seen me in a baseball cap, but you've never seen me in a cowboy hat. I mean, it's like a rare kind of deal. And it's a lot of it's because I don't really have one, right? I haven't found one that just speaks to me, whatever it is. Okay. And I'm pretty picky about that sort of thing. So, I have this feeling that if I got one that I loved and suddenly started wearing it, people would think that I'm wearing a cowboy hat to pander, because let's be honest, how often do we see politicians adopt some sort of Texas persona for the purpose of campaigning? I mean, Dan Patrick poses on a porch somewhere with this old pickup truck, and I mean, do we need any more of that? So I don't ever want to seem like I'm pandering, right? I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy who you've seen for 25 years, not generally in a cowboy hat, it's only wearing a cowboy hat everywhere because it feels like pandering. But to your point, number one, I would wear one. I would love a cowboy hat if it's shaped right and the whole 9 yards. But I can't fundraise for that because you can't use campaign funds. Can't use campaign funds for personal purchases like that. So, you guys do what you want to do. Hey, but I will tell you this. I brought this. It's show and tell. Many of you have asked. You guys saw on social media that the folks over at Republic Boot Company, Chris Conrad and those guys, did me a solid. Chris, at the very beginning of the year, said he wanted to have his company custom make me a suit and a pair of boots to thank me for slogging this out and being so close to the finish line, right? And it was, I will tell you, I'm uncomfortable accepting gifts of that nature, but Chris, I couldn't tell Chris no, and it was a moment for me, very humbling, and I was very appreciative. And so, fun fact is, I went to go pick it up several weeks ago, and I have lost a ton of weight since they fitted me. So, got to get the suit adjusted. But many of you have said that you want to see the boots, so I pulled one out, and there you go. There are the boots. Nice little Texas seal right there. And bada boom, bada bing on the pull. It is my initials. And yes, as many of you have found out, my middle initial is O. And if you want to know what it stands for, you have to go back and watch the archives of Coffee Talk. So anyway, there we go. Look at that. I checked off 1, 2, 3 questions. Bam, bam, bam. Just like that, Nate. That's progress. I like the fact that tonight the questions are much lighter. All right. Well, look, we got to move on because we got like 19 minutes left, and I got two big things to talk about. But let's take a trip down memory lane to another major important event that happened in the TNM this year. Here's a reminder.
What I want to ensure is that all of our monuments, the testimony to the history of the Texas Republic, continues to stand.
It was the most egregious violation of our religious freedom in my lifetime, and we can never let it happen again.
Texas is the top crude oil and natural gas producing state in the nation. In 2020, Texas accounted for 43% of the nation's crude oil production and 26% of its marketed natural gas production. That's good.
Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution states that all political power is inherent in the people. And it's time that we show the political establishment how powerful we can be. And that was another big piece of something that happened right this year, is we hosted our first ever governor's virtual town hall.
Yeah, I don't think that happened 4 years ago.
That did not happen 4 years ago. Although, irony of ironies, the election cycle in 2014, when Dan Patrick challenged David Dewhurst, and I think Jerry Patterson was in that one, we were a sponsor for one of the lieutenant governor's debates. I think it was in Clear Lake, maybe, down in the Houston area, but the TNM was one of the sponsors for that. Oh, the irony. It burns.
Indeed. But what a powerful event to have the major governor candidate challengers step onto not just a sponsor, but an entire town hall put on by the Texas Nationalist movement. To me, that is just, absolutely incredible and another major step forward of the progress in 2021. I know why you saved it for here. I mean, and it was, this was one piece of something that happened across the campaign trail to all the stops that they've been making, right?
Yeah, it was, we got in early. We scheduled it way ahead of time, and all of those, for Abbott's challengers, his main primary challengers in the Republican primary, we invited Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott was literally the first invitation that went out, and he was the first rejection. They bounced it almost immediately, and then as we talked about, as soon as we got one candidate, we started promoting it, and it was between Alan and Chad and Don. They gave their time. They took the time out to sit down in front of their cameras and talk to a screen. And I got to tell you, it's not an easy thing to do, but they did, and they answered the questions, which were quite detailed. And it has turned out to be, oddly enough, one of the most viewed videos that we have across all platforms. People are really digging off into that. And I think I saw the other day that Huffines has put that town hall on his YouTube channel.
Nice. They definitely got some hardball questions in that. And rightfully so. The responses from the T&M folks watching it, they weren't happy with all the answers either. But yeah. The good news is that not only did we have this incredible opportunity to be the host of one with all of these challengers for Abbott, even though he decided not to show up, which I think has been the case for almost every town hall and debate for the governor's race this year. I don't believe Abbott's made hardly any of them, if any at all. But one of the things that came up in our debate that has come up, or in our town hall rather, that's come up in many of these discussions with them, the ones they've been to, is the question of where they stand, not only on a vote for Texit, but where they stand on Texit as a whole. And that's a monumental progress step this year, that it's not a one-off thing, that it's been a continuous chorus of Texans following through and saying, you need to have a response because we want to know this is a voting issue for us. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting too, because, and I think this goes to really address some of the people who want, in the microwave society, that want to see this thing, that believe that it should happen immediately. And you have to understand that it doesn't. It happens, but it happens in such a way that when it does happen, in fact, it looks seemingly like it happened overnight. It's like I tell people all the time, with Texas blowing up, boy, it only took 25 years to become an overnight success. But the seeds for this were sown back in 2016. Many people, again, we go back to that entire thing about the convention. And what I'm trying to find is the one video that I'm thinking about specifically that deals with this. But it really, the seeds of this were sown in 2015 and 2016. Most people don't realize that this was a campaign issue, that many candidates during that cycle were being asked about Texit and Texas independence and about a vote on it. And one of the races that comes to mind, and I'll find that link. It's on our Facebook page. It's not just on Facebook. It's also on our YouTube channel. So you can find it there. But you're going to see candidates being asked about this all the time, going all the way back to 2016, where they are being asked about this. You know what? I almost thought that I had it. I'm not going to spend all this time scrolling through this, but you get the point, right? I mean, the seeds for this were sown a very long time ago, and had it not been that way, and I'm thinking the race I was thinking about that I didn't mention was the Land Troop Frullo race up in the Panhandle, where they were flat asked by the media about it. You've got, it was so, just to give you guys an idea of how prevalent it was. Many people forget that when Donald Trump was campaigning and he went to Scotland, he was asked by the media about Texit. And, and so it was prevalent. It was all over the place. And had it not been for that, and then the work that we have done in the meantime, and then Kyle filing the bill and all the things that went ahead of that to make that happen, and then all of the things that happened this year, we would not be in a position to have Abbott's main challengers. Let me tell you guys, let me just say this. It is so impressive to the outside that I did an interview with a media outlet a week ago, 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, that is probably, I would not consider them friendly to our calls, but they called specifically, and that is what they wanted to talk about, was the prevalence of statewide candidates, specifically the 3 gubernatorial candidates and myself, that have come out publicly and vocally in support of a vote on Texit, right? And then what I had to tell them at the very beginning was, well, that's not all of it. If you think we're the only 4 that are running for office right now that are for a Texit vote, you are sadly mistaken. You probably need to go interview some more people, because it's not just us. So, I look, that's progress. That's huge progress.
It's amazing, how with the perspective of the past decade of the events that have led up to enable what we accomplished this year. And it's often overlooked and forgotten because we live in, the 24-hour news cycle and the 5-minute or 30-second or 5-second attention span, that you don't realize all the things that happened. You don't realize as you go back to the work on like the gold depository bill or the 2012 stampede and all of those engagements with the legislature dating back over a decade that laid all the groundwork. And we say like, yeah, we didn't have a win this time, but it enabled us to do things for next year. Just as we were talking about earlier, those things every year, as we talked about what it meant and what it was going to mean, not that we had a crystal ball, but we knew that this was laying the groundwork for the next big thing to happen. And like you said, the tremendous work of the 2016 convention, all the way through the successes we've had this year. And even though you don't see this overt big giant W on the board in terms of like we had a vote in November, but we know what this means. That's why we're excited on this program talking about what happened in 2021, because even though we've been saying it's not if but when, and it's inevitable, and we know that for certain, seeing the events unfold and actions and work done by our volunteers in 2021, we know what's coming. I can't tell you exactly when the things are going to happen, but this has been the groundwork that sets us up for the success in 2022 and in 2023. I mean, we now have a better chance than ever of having a referendum in 2023 than had 2021 not gone this way. And it wouldn't have gone this way had we not done the things we've done in the past decade before that. So
everything builds, everything builds. And this is steady progress. And for anybody who's complaining that's not happening fast enough, why don't you try to be in my shoes, right? I've been at this a long time. That was another key moment for me. August 24th of this year, you guys threw a virtual party for me, for which I am greatly appreciative. Claver came on and hosted it, and there were kind messages from many of you, and it was just a wonderful time. But if you think this is dragging butt, so let's swap places. Right. You go through the crap that I've been through and dealing with the things that I've had to deal with over these years. Then we can talk. Then we can have a conversation, because if you could go through the things that I had to go through, then I would finally have somebody to be in a support group with. Right. So bottom line is that, look, we're there. I mean, we are the one takeaway that anyone should have from 2021 is that we are on a trajectory that makes Texit inevitable, right? It's not, I've said it for many years, the Texit is not a hope, wish, or a dream, but it's an inevitability. And 2021 should be the year that proved to everyone that it's an inevitability, especially if you go through and the things I talk about in this book right? The things that have been holding Texit back. If you consciously address those things, and continue to not, you continue, which apparently many of you are doing. I mean, that's been that book has been so helpful, at least for me, because I don't have to answer all the same questions over and over. But if you do those things to overcome those obstacles, then we will see this. 2021 should be the year that proves to every single person that Texit is actually an inevitability. It is now just a matter of time. But we have to keep pushing. We got to keep getting it done. Nate, we're running short on time. So final thing for me personally, big sort of milestone is this run for office, right? And I want to just say this. I don't want to dwell on it because I already spent a lot of time talking about it anyway. But I do want to take this opportunity in the remaining few minutes to address that issue. And remind everyone that for me, running for lieutenant governor of Texas, frankly, running for any office was never in the cards, right? Not anything that I wanted to do, not in the plan. I famously used to joke when people would say that, do you want to be president of Texas? What position do you want to hold? Blah, blah, blah. I said, look, you guys don't understand. Independence Day +1, I'm going fishing. I'm going on a vacation because I frankly deserve one, okay? And so this was never in the cards. And as the chorus of voices got louder, culminating in that open letter that came, and then a lot of people helping me make sense of why a run for lieutenant governor it helps us advance Texas, and frankly, the overall mission of the TNM, right? The political, cultural, economic independence, and plus a whole host of issues, right? A whole host of Texas first issues. It puts us in a position to do a lot of good for Texas. And so with logic like that, everybody knows how to get to me. Hey, we're doing it for Texas. All right, I'm in, whatever it is, right? So this is really and truly an honor. It has been a probably one of the high points of my life to see the kind of support that I've gotten. Now, I will tell you, there are some unpleasant aspects of it. watching how politics works, very similar to junior high in some regards, the way some people behave. There are many people out there that are in the political world in Texas that are incapable of having a grown-up conversation or dealing with issues in a grown-up way. And what I have seen across many people, not our people, but many people that I have come across that are operating in the political establishment have no fixed set of principles. They will say whatever, they will do whatever to continue to advance their political ambitions. And that includes lying and mischaracterizations and all that, but we knew all that going in. So first off, I want to thank all of you that first and foremost talked me into doing this, because I love a good competition and I love to win. And so thank you for hitting me with a stick of dynamite and a crowbar to get me into this particular game, and giving us the opportunity to advance great Texas first, Texas nationalist principles. Okay, so that's number one. But number two is I want to thank all of you that are aligned with us, right? TNMers, Texas First. I want to thank all of you for answering the call and stepping forward to run for office as well. Because we know that if nothing changes, nothing changes. And we also know that if those people in the legislature or wherever they are, the political establishment types, if we leave these people in there, then the probability is high that we will yet again be denied our rights, and especially our inalienable right to alter, reform, or abolish our government in such manner as we may think expedient. And I will tell you something about the candidates that are connected to us, our TNM candidates, our Texas First candidates, our Take Texas Back candidates, is we all know what Article 1, Section 1 and Article 1, Section 2 does, right? Some of these guys that are in office right now, even though they have sworn an oath to uphold those words and those principles, would not know those words if you tape them to their face, right? Some of them are not even smart enough to be able to read it off a piece of paper. So the fact of the matter is that we are together. We're working together. We're going to get this thing done together. And by golly, all of Texas in the world is in for a great show, because we are going to go in there with every intention to win and to carry out exactly what we say we're going to say, what we're going to do, excuse me. And that is to give the people of Texas a vote on Texas independence, to do things that are in the best interest of Texas, like securing our border and eliminating that onerous property tax, and to do so many other great things that are in the best interest of Texans. We are going to finally put Texas first, as it should have been all along for people that are elected from Texas. So I want to thank you all for being along on this ride. Now, we're wrapping up. We're going to go over time, Nate, but you know what you got to do is you got to end this thing with the song that we start with, the song that we end with. Pay particular attention to your mic closeness. And I will say this because you will take us out, but I want to wish every one of you a very happy and prosperous new year. Let's take Texas back. Let's go out there and let's take this thing home. Let's go win. Texas independence is within our grasp, and we're closer than we've ever been. And so, as Nate preps up to take us out on the song, I will leave you with the words that I'll leave you with every time. And those are the words of Sam Houston when he said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. I believe that time is now, and the question is, will you stand with her? Good night, everyone, and here's Nate Smith.
All right, here's some Texan Arise. Oh, I just thought a reason why I wrote this song. For me, that concept of Texas independence is not just about, it's about Texans, but it's not just about Texans. It's about being an inspiration to the world. Not forcing them to do what we do, not forcing them to choose liberty, but leading by example. I think that's what happens when Texans arise. And to throw in one more win from this year, like the conference we went to in New Hampshire, Daniel and I attended and talked with a group up there. The results of some of those conversations and things that we did led New Hampshire to file a bill to talk about a vote on independence as well. So the hits keep coming in. The people in power, whether red or blue, they could not care less about Texas, me and you. They created this give-me country because they don't value hard work. But for a Texan to survive, all we need are some seas and dirt. Texan arise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country before it's long gone. We believe in family and we value our community. We gladly lend a helping hand to a neighbor in need. We don't believe that government should provide for all of society's needs. No, it's the pride of a Texan to give to others voluntarily. Texan arise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country before it's long gone. Well, they like our tax dollars and they love our natural resources, but they don't want to see us driving trucks, rather see us riding horses. And now they want to ban our guns, especially the ones that look scary. But may I remind you of the Gonzales Cannon and the Alamo heroes we buried. Texan arise, don't you hear your call? to save your country before it's long gone. This last part comes right out of the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 and 2. And about our right to have a vote on Texas. Well, Texas is an independent state, yet presently we suffer. But we no longer possess the right to locally self-govern. And now it's time as a people in which all political power is inherent. And in such manner we find expedient to reform or abolish our government. I said, Texan, arise. Don't you hear your call? Got to save your country before it's long gone. Texan, arise. Don't you hear your call? Got to save your country before it's long gone. Happy New Year, everybody. Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful night.